YouTube! Welcome back. Boone Headshot here, and today we are starting part 1 of what I'm calling the big one. This will be everything that you need to know for Assassination Rogue in Season 2 of The War Within. Welcome, and let's get started. So, we're going to start by talking about Mythic Plus. Part 1 is all Mythic Plus. Part 2 will be Raid, and then finally Part 3 will be some PvP. So, without further ado, let's start talking about Mythic Plus. There are 3 main specs that are bouncing around, depending on playstyles, depending on key level, and there's some variations to a couple of them. So we're going to start with last season's tried and true hybrid spec. So why is it called hybrid? What does hybrid mean? What's the importance of some of the capstones inside the talent trees? Well, we're going to talk about all of that. So, rogue side. This pretty much stays the same for both of the variations for hybrid. The hero tree. This does not change for hybrid as well. And then on the assassination side, this is the more AoE, bigger pack spec. The only real thing that you can change here is Master Assassin for Twist the Knife. And that takes some of your critical strike away when you come out of stealth and funnels it into Envenom damages. So keep that in mind depending on how you want to play it. But pretty much this is what you lock in for playing hybrid. Now, what's hybrid mean? Well, hybrid takes poison talents and it takes bleed talents. So it's a hybrid. So you're getting benefits from the poison talents that kind of come down the middle, as well as Kingsbane, and you are taking bleed talents that come down the right side of the tree. Now, what are some of the important talents to be paying attention to? Well, one of them is Kingsbane, which this spec, when you're using your cooldown windows, the whole point of this spec is to buff the hell out of Kingsbane. So, we utilize Shiv to increase our poison damage. We utilize Vanish with the extra Vanishes to regain Master Assassin and get critical strike chance for Kingsbane during those Kingsbane windows. And we utilize Deathmark to duplicate everything. That's pretty much it. The other big talents that we're grabbing, obviously, Dragon Tempered Blades. We get 4 poisons, 2 lethal, 2 non-lethal. You don't have to worry about switching between mind numbing and crippling, like when you're on the bleed build. There are some dungeons where you will be poison swapping. And then we're taking Indiscriminate Carnage. Absolutely mandatory for spreading those bleeds out of your opener. Opener's heavy. Assassination is very heavy on those openers. And then Sudden Demise, which we're not really utilizing the execute phase that much here. We're just grabbing it for the extra bleed damage. The extra bleed damage is great. It got buffed. It used to be 10%, so we got some more bleed damage there. And as we move up this right side, these are some pretty important ones. Scent of Blood is one of your best talents to take. 5 ruptures give you an extra 20% agility. That's massive. So that's why you see in the guides to get your bleeds out, and then you start your cooldowns. And then Bone Spike, also massive for your opener. Refunds you points and awards combo points when you rupture targets. So it's big for getting those instant ruptures out. Again, this is all helping you open and spread bleeds so that you can start your cooldowns and start your envenoms as quickly as possible. Shrouded Suffocation is another big one. You get the benefit of Shrouded Suffocation for the subterfuge window, and so it's big. You get a total of 12 seconds with subterfuge, and it's massive. Like, you can use it to reapply garrotes. Like, you can start an improved garrote, and then towards the end of that 12-second window, you can refresh it, and you'll still get the improved garrote damage. It's like another 50% increased duration if you reapply it before that window falls off. And let's see, the rest are all pretty standard. Caustic Spatter's gonna be one of your bigger talents. You want to make sure that you always have the spatter. That is where your damage will splash off of your target, as long as you've mutilated them after you applied Rupture. So like, Rupture is like your real big, that's like your base layer. Rupture is how you as an Assassination Rogue build your damage and begin multiplying off of it. It is your foundation. So, Rupture for the win. So, that's pretty much the talents for the double Vanish. So we're taking Without a Trace here. There is also a version with Forced Induction, and we will go in detail more about that after we go through the rotation here of the Vanish hybrid. So, cooldowns, rotation. What do we do? There's a right way and a wrong way to your openers that you might be doing, and making some small tweaks and adjustments to the timing will give you a massive gain in your damage output. So again, remember, we are trying to buff Kingsbane. But just real quick, and this will this will serve as like a beginner's guide here. All right, so rotation. And actually, before we do rotation, because I'm gonna do beginner stuff that you can skip through, but I want to talk about Crimson Tempest. This is big. This is for all Mythic Plus specs. Crimson Tempest snapshots. So, what that means is if I only hit... Oh, I hit all 5. Alright, that's fine. If you only hit like 2 of the targets, you need to know that so that you can reapply and hit 5 targets. Let's see if I can do it again here. Now, if I can only come over here... So I only hit 4. I've got a counter that tells me how many targets are affected by Crimson Tempest. That way I can make the decision to reapply and try to get at least 5 targets hit. What this means is that if I get 5 stacks applied, and say a target dies and I'm just down to 4 enemies left in the pack or 3 enemies left in the pack, I want to let Crimson Tempest fall completely off before reapplying. That the damage that Crimson Tempest does locks in and is the same for all those targets from the initial amount of targets hit. So, grab a counter for Crimson Tempest so that you know whether or not you need to be reapplying it. Alright, so we're going to let that fall off, and then we're going to talk about the rotation. So again, this is like beginner. This is talking about the first 3 finishers. We're talking about our double rupture. We're talking about the first Crimson Tempest. So if you already know all of this, feel free to skip ahead. We're going to talk about this first. So, because of Bone Spike, because of Indiscriminate Carnage, we don't have to target swap in a pack of 5. If it is more than a pack of 5, you want to start practicing target swapping. Indiscriminate Carnage is a smart talent that will apply bleeds to enemies within range that do not have bleeds already applied. So it will prioritize fresh targets before refreshing targets with the lowest timer left on the ability. So again, it's a good talent. You want to start mouse over macroing Rupture and Garrote on fresh targets so that you apply 3 fresh stacks to stuff instead of 2. But again, in a group of 5, this does not matter. Just have to pay attention to when the tank's going big and react accordingly. And I'll put some videos up after this opener. We'll do a quick video and talk over that on some target swapping examples. And just kidding, we're actually going to do that now. So, slow down. There's the Garrote with a Rupture. We have 3 targets. I jump over to another pack of 3 targets and reapply bleeds before we go back to our main target with Caustic Spatter getting applied before we begin hitting them with our basic rotation without cooldowns. So, here you can see it in action doing well for you. Get as many ruptures as you can during your indiscriminate carnage window. Like, you know, if you can get up to 7 or 8, that's great. And then you're just going crazy with envenoms. But for the most part here, first 3 finishers. It says that I am not close enough. That's crazy. Alright, so Garrote, Rupture, Rupture, Garrote. Max combo points with Fan of Knives and Crimson Tempest. Here's the tracker. Very similar to Wowhead. That is why we are able to get all of our bleeds out super fast. And that's from that Bone Spike. So that Bone Spike really helps us on targets that don't have Rupture. Now, from there, we have Darkest Night. We see it here counting down on my tracker. We don't have a mark popped up on anything, so we consumed all 3 of our charges. From here, before Kingsbane gets applied, we need to start our Envenom. That increases our poison chance, touching back on buffing the hell out of Kingsbane. Now, there's a right way and a wrong way to these cooldowns, and we're going to do it the wrong way first, and then talk about how we make the adjustments to get the most out of Kingsbane. So, a lot of starting rogues, they'll just, see all the cooldowns, they hit all their buttons, and then they start slamming Envenoms, but they're not keeping up with, either other rogues that they watch or follow, and they can't figure it out. So that's a small detail. Envenom first before Kingsbane. And so here's all the cooldowns without the little minor tweaks to get the most out of Kingsbane. So it looks like this. So a lot of people do this. Our Ruptures, our Garrotes, Crimson Tempest, we'll do the Envenom. Shiv goes out, and now we're just keeping cooldowns and Envenoming. And so, even with the right things wrong, we still got up to like 8 when I was glancing up there. The top bar is current damage being dealt. So yeah, I still saw 8, maybe almost 9, and that's pretty good. Now we can do better. We can get it higher. And one of the ways that we do that is we vanish after like the first 2 seconds of Kingsbane. So you'll get like 1 or 2 abilities out after Kingsbane, and then we vanish. And then we hold on to our Shiv for the last 8 seconds of Kingsbane. Shiv increases poison damage. Kingsbane ramps up in damage over time. So we want to make the back half of Kingsbane, where it is doing more damage, do even more damage from the Shiv multiplier. So we make those small adjustments, and we watch the damage being dealt, and we compare. So to recap, oh, actually, while we're waiting, we can talk about tea. So Thistle Tea, I hit that button manually. A lot of people macro Thistle Tea to Kingsbane. You are welcome to do that. Sometimes, depending on where my energy is, or if I've got a Darkest Night coming, I'll drink Thistle Tea to get my energy back up high, as well as the mastery increase for an Envenom. You can let tea auto drink. You don't really get too much of a DPS loss, but you always do want to drink a tea with your Kingsbane. So if you make a macro for Kingsbane, drink a Thistle Tea every time you use it, and you'll almost always have a charge for it, as long as you're watching your energy as Kingsbane's coming back. So you can auto drink a tea right around the time Kingsbane's coming back. You'll still get some pretty good use out of the increased mastery, but it's just one minor thing to be watching. And again, the DPS loss is not that crazy, so letting it auto drink is completely fine. Now, back to rotation with cooldowns, and abilities timed out correctly. Watch the tracker here, watch the timer on my ability tracker here, because I'm going to try to focus on pushing everything out correctly. Watch the DPS number up there. And then we'll talk about it after I'm done smashing buttons. So, that was pretty much everything. We got up to like 9 something there. Again, not too much of a DPS increase from doing it wrong, but doing it right, especially when you have more targets, will completely amplify the amount of damage that you put out. And that's pretty much Mythic Plus Hybrid in a nutshell. So without cooldowns, you're just bleeding. Got bleeds going out, and then we're just venomous. We're watching our cooldowns. Growth's gonna run off. We can choose to vanish here if we wanted. We can use mouse over growths on just anything that we need. And cross over ruptures as we need to. So, that's pretty much what you're doing in between your cooldowns. Now let's talk about Kingsbane, what to do with it when we don't have Deathmark. Kingsbane by itself, it's kind of weak. It's kind of weak. You won't be able to max stack it unless you've got power infusion. So if you're doing crazy more damage than like everybody else in your Mythic Plus group, and you've got a priest and he starts hooking you up, then your Kingsbane will put out some damage for you. I think that's what was kind of happening during one of the later seasons in Dragonflight, whenever I was looking at how rogues were performing in the older expansions. I did not play Dragon's Flight, but it still kind of applies here. Power Infusion will help you stack Kingsbane, but as a rogue, you're like the 4th or 5th best choice, so you likely won't get it, and that's okay. Kingsbane, when it comes off cooldown, you just need to get rid of it. Send it on like one target that's about to die. You can send it in a pack. The idea is that you send it as soon as it's off cooldown so that it will line back up with Deathmark, because Deathmark is really where Kingsbane shines, and you want to make sure that they are together. You're only really using Deathmark for Kingsbane, and you're using Kingsbane with Deathmark. So they line up perfectly. As long as you are doing that, you will always be able to top the numbers in your groups. And that's pretty much it for the Vanish hybrid. Let me run halfway to Narnia to reset bone spikes so we can see everything without any damage already going out, and we will talk about the forced induction variant. Alright, moving on. Now we are going to talk about a spec that is not being used as much in the lower keys. This is mostly a higher key spec. This is basically hybrid with single target priority. And I am doubling down on that single target because I am taking Lightweight Shiv and Dashing Scoundrel over the 2 Garrote capstones. This pretty much makes it so that we're not really using Garrote. Like, you can hit it once coming out of your stealth window, but like, you're pretty much ignoring Garrote in favor of 5 Ruptures and big Envenoms. We have Twist the Knife, so our Envenom can stack up to twice. We still want to get 1 Envenom out before Kingsbane starts. We'll get that duplicate, that overlapped, that stacked Envenom. We'll have that rolling by the time Kingsbane is ramping up through the second half. And the only real other thing to be extremely careful of is opening out of stealth, because you do not get a grace period coming out of stealth with this. We have no subterfuge windows at all. We have no extra vanishes. We have just the 1 vanish, and we save that vanish for any time that we don't get a mark going in our packs. Otherwise, you are going to just have a bad time for whatever poll you're working on because you have no Deathstalker's mark. So pay very, very close attention to when you are opening in this spec, and try to open when you know you can get 5 Ruptures out within that 6-second window, because that's all we're really trying to do here. This spec sims a little lower over the AoE stuff, but you're going to still use it as you start getting into the higher keys, just because of the sheer amount of health everything has and how quickly you might want to kill certain casters, because you'll eventually start running out of interrupts to keep the whole party alive. And so you'll see some of the top rogues running this. And this is still very good. It plays very raid-like. So the difference here, once we get through our bleed window, we get all the bleeds applied, we get spatter applied, Shiv goes out before Kingsbane, but I mean, other than that, it still plays pretty much the same. So, and it looks like this. So we'll demonstrate here. I saw 10 million crit in there, and I think we were in close to the 8s. So what's really big here is the Lingering Darkness that is now counting down. So I've got one of my shivs back in time for it. We're gonna get all of our bleeds reset here, and then we'll shiv in the last couple seconds of Lingering Darkness, and there's an 8 mil. So utilize Lingering Darkness as best you can. But that's pretty much the spec. And as you saw, like it gets right up there with the others, pretty close. I think I saw some 10 mil Venoms in there. Let's look at, where did it go? Alright, maybe I didn't see a 10. So anyways, here's the breakdown of the DPS window. And you can see how Spatter led for most of that window, and Crimson Tempest was right behind it. So even with the single target spec, Crimson Tempest is still a good amount of damage. And then you can see the Envenom was 8.4 mil. And so that's pretty much how you play the single target variation. You can, like I said before, you can switch to the more Garrote friendly talents, and you can get Garrotes out, and it shifts some of the damage back into cleave versus single target. So again, play around with it, see what you like more, and just go. So still very good spec. Let me move out to Narnia again. We'll reset. We'll talk about the bleed build. Let's talk about my favorite right now, and that is the bleed build. This plays different than the other two. So again, find a spec that you might like and start learning it. But bleed build, what are we doing differently? What is there that's big? What is there that's kind of the same? Let's go over it. So rogue side, we do change. We change out one talent here versus those hybrid specs, and we are now using improved ambush over tight spender. In the Deathstalker's tree, we do change out a talent. We're no longer worried about the Fan of Knives talent, and we're now following the blood, which makes Crimson Tempest do even more damage as long as you have 2 ruptures going. And in the bleed build, we're like an Affliction Warlock that's melee because of all of the dot management that we are doing. And I think that's why I like this build so much. In Cataclysm, I was an Affliction Warlock, and just happy to see that there's still dot management as a class thing. So I'm digging it. Over here on the assassination side, we are throwing away all of our center talents for poison, including Kingsbane, including Dragon Tempered Blades. So now we only have 2 poisons to mess with. That means in some dungeons we will be swapping from Mind Numbing to Crippling. Just off of the bat, a couple of them. The Meadery, Cinderbrew Meadery, whenever you're dealing with the Brew Boss, when his ads come out, you are a big help to the party with crippling poison to slow down the ads that try to get to the boss. In Motherload, you are a big help slowing down the bombs that try to get to the players. So a lot of different areas or situations, excuse me, where crippling poison is worth swapping to. But moving into what the bleed build is and the main idea behind it, we are now going down both sides here. Like I said, giving up the middle side, or the middle tree here. And now we've got more ambush and mutilate happiness, right? This whole spec just feels good right now. Zoldyck recipe gives you an execute phase. You're getting 30% more poison and bleed damage after targets go below 35% health. You've got free ambush chances when target goes underneath 35% health. We now have the sudden demise where we are trying to work on that execute below 35% health. So this whole, everything kind of switches to an execute phase that we start working towards. The biggest thing to take away from it is empowering all bleeds. So if we study this, because this is the important one in the bleed build. If we study Sudden Demise's words here, they instantly bleed out and take fatal damage when the remaining bleed damage you would deal to them exceeds 150% of their remaining health. So, if we look at improved growth, 50% increased damage when used from stealth. If we look at Crimson Tempest, deals 100% more damage if it hits 5 targets. So that's at 7 points. That's that's almost 1.5 million damage. So, and then that's not including what happens with Envenom. So if I come over here and I Envenom a target real quick, let's see if I get a max target Envenom off. So now it's 1.1 million, but if I hit 5 targets, that's 2.2. And so this really goes into the idea of the snapshot of Crimson Tempest. So that's 2 million that's going to go out to all these targets. So let's go back and look at this, right? If we're still trying to do the math. So there's two something million from Crimson Tempest. Garrote itself does it said 8, it changed probably from the Envenom window. But 50% more damage from its base of around 800,000. So there's another 1.5 million. So you can get 3-4 million health no problem with these maximum bleeds. And you can even further supercharge it using Shiv, which increases bleed damage by another 30%, and Deathmark, which is going to duplicate and deal 100% normal, or 100% of normal damage. So you can start dropping all of these ads when they've still got like 10% health remaining, as long as you empower everything and you get the timing on it right. And it's going to be hard to show this on these target dummies because they don't really die. And so we'll have to kind of go through some clips of where I am abusing Sudden Demise to just make ads fall over. Alright, so for pack ads, we've got some masterminds we have slowed down so we can take a look at everything here. Rupture, Garrote. We're going to slow down even further when Vanish goes out, just so we can look at everything that happens. So, which should be coming up right now. Vanish is out, and Deathmark goes out on a Mastermind. I want you to pay attention to the Alchemist health and the Mastermind's health, because I get good timing for sudden demise there. So watch what happens, and then we're going to break it down. Pause real quick. So, in case we didn't catch what just happened, even in slow motion, I'm throwing up two images here before they die, and then here after it starts to die. And the first one, when he dies, you can't really see the health being dealt as damage, but on the Mastermind, when he goes down, you can clearly see how much health he had left, and then a 25 million damage tick from sudden demise go across the screen. It's faint, it's subtle. That's why I screen captured it right whenever it's going up the window. So that is one way that you can abuse sudden demise when you get the timing right. All right, back to the video. But that is essentially what we're trying to do. Supercharge, maybe that's not the right word. Super empower all of your bleeds. Use Envenom to get some of your bleeds even more damage. Use Shiv, and you want to try to time all that to start working on building all of those powered bleeds, empowered bleeds, by like 30%, 40%, 30% health. That way you have everything rolling on all the packs as you're getting into that execute window for sudden demise at 35%. And you can start dropping them very quickly. You'll see me save Deathmark for halfway through a pack. You still get the benefits of Lingering Darkness, which is 30% increased nature damage, so your poisons are doing more damage, which helps you get everything's health low enough, fast enough for sudden demise. Because remember, sudden demise is only bleed damage, which is not nature. Poison damage is nature. So keep all of that in mind. And again, no Kingsbane. So we're just using Deathmark and Shiv. Those are our only cooldowns. Deathmark and Shiv. The rotation itself doesn't really change. We're still gonna try to get out as much bleeds as we can in like the first 6-7 seconds, and then we start focusing on envenoms. But our envenom damage is like the weakest, our weakest ability in this toolkit. And in single target, we'll go talk about single target bleed here in a second once I get through this opener with you guys. Single target, we like Sanguine Blades, so we're going to try to keep our energy over 150. So this, like, pure single target fights feel wrong, and we'll go over that here in a second. But for now, let's go through an opener with cooldowns, and this looks almost entirely the same as hybrid. Rope, rupture, rope. We've got two things of Shiv, so Shiv stays up for the entirety of Deathmark. You want to maintain Crimson Tempest. That's your big one. When targets go under 35% health, depending on how many targets are still left alive, if it's only like 2 or 3 targets, you'll start switching more towards Mutilate to try to get those free ambushes over Fan of Knife Span. So obviously I can't show that too well here, but I can show it over here on the 3 target dummies. So if it was like a 3 target dummy We still get our bleeds out. And then it is mostly mutilates for the free mutilate or free ambush. Watching our target counters. Rotes ran out. We can shiv. But that is like if you only had 3 targets. We're mostly mutilating. Now, let's talk on the single target. Why'd you say it felt slow? Well, in single target, we're not going to get a crazy amount of energy back through bleeds. And Crimson Tempest does so much damage, you want to maintain it over Envenom. Because your Envenom, when it crits, is only like 2 million, where Crimson Tempest is going to be doing that every couple seconds already. Not every couple, but every 10 seconds or so. 18 seconds, but we're going to double that with Envenom. And so if I could just get Bone Spikes to stop trolling me. There we go. So on a single target, again, feels very slow. We're going to try to maintain 150 or more energy. The only time where we start dumping energy is during our Shiv windows or our Deathmark windows. And then once those windows are done, we get back up to full energy. So again, this is where I said it feels wrong and it feels slow. But it looks like looks something like this. We're in our energy windows. Shiv is out. We're going to hit everything we got. Reapply the Shiv. Reapply the Crimson Tempest. And now we're just in our maintenance phase. Everything's done. Got some freebies there. We're going to maintain Tempest before Rupture. When we're ready, once we've got all our bleeds back, we can start our Shiv, and we go nuts here. That was probably our highest Envenom because we still had Lingering Darkness going. Now we're out of our window, we get back over 150 energy, and we maintain our bleeds. We're not really worried about chaining the Envenom. Once we get our bleeds set back up, we'll dump all of our energy in a Shiv window here. So there we go, and now we just start going. So you want to, again, this is where we come back to maintaining that above 150. And we are just watching our cooldowns. This is a good time to use Thistle Tea. Like you can manually drink it to stay above 150. But that is like your pure single target rotation, and you'll actually have higher numbers as you start to get that timing figured out. You'll have better DPS on single targets than if you just tried to slam Envenoms over and over again, because you'll run out of energy. And you won't get any duplicated bleed damages from Sanguine Blades. Okay, so we've talked about everything for those 3 Mythic Plus specs. As we round this out, close it out, final thoughts here, we'll go over the macros, we'll go over my weak aura, we'll go over the plater. And so we'll start with the macros. It's pretty straightforward. I just have Deathmark and my trinket. I have a mouse over Garrote. I have a mouse over kick. I have a mouse over Rupture. And then, depending on how I'm feeling, I might use my Tempered Potion Kingsbane macro. Most of the time, I keep my potion on a button, so it's usually down there. I'll switch those out depending on if I want to accidentally use it or not. But some variation of that between the potions on my Z key. Set it up in whichever way is easiest for you. Not have to use these macros. They do help reduce some of the button bloat because rogues have a lot. So that's really the only real macros that I use. For a while, I think, what is this? This was I was using Arcane Torrent with a Shiv, but now I use that as a button as well. So macros done. Let's look at weak aura. My weak aura is an old Luxthos rogue that I have gone through and messed with. Both me and one of my buddies who's way better at it than I am helped me with it. He was able to help set up the Crimson Tempest tracker, and I've got that link. It'll be in this description, and it's on, like, you'll find it on anything that I'm doing. It'll be on my Twitch links, my main page for YouTube. It's there, so you'll always have access to the most recent thing that I am messing around with. And then the only other thing that I do, I've got a dot that shows me if I am in combat or not, or my party, if my party's in combat. So you'll see in the videos of the raid frames, a red dot means that you're in combat. So that helps me keep an eye on whether or not I am good to run around, or if I'm about to get smacked if the tank dies. So that's really only the weak aura stuff that I mess with. And now for Plater, I am using Jundies. So this is Jundies that has been modified by Shindig, who is like one of the top 10 rogues right now. And then I went and found is it a mod or a script? It does the tracking for Kingsbane and Caustic Spatter. Where are you? There it is. So, Kingsbane, Caustic Spatter. Bars turn green if Kingsbane or Caustic Spatter is being applied to a particular target. So that's the only real thing that I've added to this Plater outside of what Jundies and Shindig have already kind of messed around with. So yeah, not too much there. Jundies bars are very clean, easy to find. Oh, you know what? I did do something different. Let's go down here. I will show you this. You guys already have been seeing it on all the videos, but so in Plater you can do, it's the buff special. So certain buffs will go out to the sides of the bar. So I've got Deathstalker's mark should be popping out. Am I not seeing it? See it there. Oh no, it's already been added. Okay, so everything on here is like stuns or like knockups or silences. So that helps me keep an eye on it. So my mark pops out to the side of the bar, so that if I'm in a massive group of like 10-12 enemies, I can easily find this if I haven't turned it green yet with like Caustic Spatter. it's easy to still find it because I make Deathstalker's Mark come out to the side. So that again is in buff special, add aura, and then you actually type in Deathstalker's Mark and it'll add it to this list. So that's everything. And then from there you can just general settings, space out however much you want it to overlap, if any, thicknesses, all of that. That is all different by everybody's playstyles. I've got mine spaced out enough so that I can still see the debuffs on them, so that they don't get too hidden. I can still see the beads counting down. So that really kind of concludes everything for part 1. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments below. Let me know if you're having trouble with anything. I'll try to clarify anything that I've been talking about here. And good luck out there. Go blast your keys. Start filling your vault. Bring the rogues back. Need more of them. So, at any rate, guys, I'll catch you on the next one. And we then pick a new priority target. Leads. Everything sounds so silly. Can't even. I can't do it.